Mr. Buffett goes to Washington, D.C., and we are with him right here on Fox Business. Welcome back to Warren Buffett. We're continuing our conversation, of course. Your view on so many things matters to a lot of people because you're arguably the greatest living investor, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this Massachusetts election. I bring that up because it makes me wonder about the whole financial zeitgeist in people's minds about thinking that any kind of change is the change that they want. 3 major elections since President Obama had taken office, and that would be the gubernatorial races in Virginia, in New Jersey, and then, of course, the state Senate race in Massachusetts. All 3 went to Republicans. Yeah. What does Massachusetts tell you?
Well, it tells us that people are unhappy with how they see the world around them right now. They see a high jobless rate. They see people having problems with their mortgages. They're in a fairly negative mood currently. They'll get over it at some point, but right now, you know, they're not happy with Congress. They're not happy with banks. They're not happy with the administration. They're not happy with the health care bill. Whatever it may be, some combination of that, and so they're going to vote against whoever they think is down here in Washington.
Is that misguided?
Well, it probably is, but it does send a message. I mean, you have to respond to that because in the end, to get things done in this country, you need to get people marching with you, and people right now are not marching with Washington.
Well, yeah. I mean, we at Fox Business do this thing called Red Ink Watch, and if you were to print out the stimulus bill, it was about this high. I mean, yeah. How many trees had to die for this thing? And people look at it and they say, we don't feel any job creation, even though we've come way off of the job losses and the bleeding that we saw in the employment world. Yeah,
and they saw that stimulus bill with 8,000 earmarks or something of the sort, and they do not view Washington favorably, and that feeling, I think, is probably about Washington has soured some during the past year, partly because of factors like the economy, but partly because of what they see on television when they watch Congress.
Yeah, Congress is not running very high in the polls at the moment. Let's get to Berkshire. Of course, yesterday you had the big meeting, and everybody voted to split the B shares, the cheaper shares, less expensive. Let's not say cheap. Yeah. And today is the first day they're trading. Warren, the volatility is crazy. 5 times normal volume, which is what you always have bristled against. You wanted long-term shareholders. Again, the stock is hitting a new high. Does this make you happy, or does it disconcert you a little bit?
Well, we want to get the same kind of shareholders we've attracted in the past. We want to get people who look at buying a share in Berkshire like buying a piece of a farm or an apartment house that they intend to hold forever. And it's up to us to attract those kind of people by what our policies are, our communications are with them. And I think it'll be okay, but my guess is there's been a little more action than is ideal today.
Well, they're running at about $72 and change at the moment.
Yeah, well, I'm not talking about the price on it, but just in the end, you know, we hope we have shareholders who are in sync with us, who measure us the way we measure ourselves, who've got the sort of time horizons and all of that sort of thing.
What do you say to the day traders who are in today?
We don't want any day traders.
No day traders.
No. And incidentally, we get very, very few of them in the end.
You know, you did this so you could complete the purchase of Burlington Northern, the railroad. I want to make a comparison here because you are also, of course, Kraft's largest shareholder. You've been adamant saying you were against Kraft buying Cadbury. Right. How does issuing shares of Berkshire at what many believe is a lower valuation with these B shares to buy Burlington Northern, a business that is far more cyclical perhaps than Cadbury would be to Kraft, how does that differ than what Kraft is doing?
Well, Kraft is paying Kraft, for example, sold a piece of business in part where they sold it at 9 times operating earnings after tax. They only got $2.5 billion after tax. They said they sold it for $3.7 billion, but they sold it in a very tax inefficient manner. So they did that to buy something that probably, by the time you get through adding the costs they're going to incur, deal costs and everything, is 16 or 17 times earnings. We're not doing anything like that at Berkshire. We are issuing some shares, which I hate issuing. Charlie hates issuing them. The board of directors hates issuing them. But it was the only way we could make the deal, and we are using $22 billion of cash in what we think is a very effective manner, and we're not selling off any of our businesses to do so.
Not selling any businesses?
No.
Would you use the liquidity from the 50-for-1 split that's left over to buy more businesses other than Burlington?
We'll keep buying businesses, as long as I'm alive, we'll be buying businesses.
You'll be buying businesses.
Yeah, and we'll try to buy them for cash. Sometimes we may have to use some stock, but we'll use as little stock as possible.
This reminds me, of course, and you're the biggest shareholder of Coca-Cola as well. You were against Coke buying Quaker Oats, and PepsiCo picked it up, and that, of course, was Gatorade, and it worked out very well for PepsiCo.
I'm not so sure. Have you looked at Gatorade lately?
Disagree? Do you disagree?
Have you looked at Gatorade lately? It's down. I think it's down. I shouldn't name a figure probably.